Whew. Now then, I've got 5 essential jobs I need to do to keep this garden running over winter. We're not going to let it sleep. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. Winter might seem like a quiet time for gardeners, but there's still plenty to do. Today, I'm sharing 5 crucial tasks to keep your garden healthy and productive. Neglecting your garden in winter can lead to problems come spring. Pests and diseases can take hold, soil can become compacted, and plants may struggle to recover. It's like leaving your house with the windows open all winter. It's going to be cold, drafty, and vulnerable to pests. Our gardens need to be battened down and protected too. First up, pruning. This is a great time to prune fruit trees and bushes to encourage healthy growth and shape them for a bountiful harvest next year. Now I've got this lovely dwarf plum tree here. It's still quite young, so we want to create a nice open shape to allow plenty of light and air to reach the fruit. See how this branch is growing inwards? We'll prune that one out to prevent overcrowding. And this one here is crossing over another branch, which can cause rubbing and damage. We'll take that out too. Always remember to make clean cuts just above a bud. Now, with dwarf fruit trees, it's especially important to keep them compact, so we'll shorten some of these longer branches to encourage more fruiting spurs to develop. And don't forget those secateurs. Always use sharp tools for clean cuts to prevent disease. Next, let's protect those vulnerable plants from the harsh winter weather. You might remember a few weeks ago I showed you my clementine tree in the polytunnel. Well, I have a confession to make. I forgot to cover it with fleece during that last cold snap, and look what happened. Some of the leaves have died back. Poor thing. So let's learn from my mistake and make sure it's properly protected from now on. First things first, I'm going to remove any damaged leaves. This will prevent diseases from taking hold and allow the plant to focus its energy on new growth. Now, to prevent this from happening again, I'm going to wrap the whole tree in horticultural fleece. This acts like a cozy blanket, protecting it from frost and icy winds. See how I'm tucking the fleece in around the base? We don't want any cold air sneaking in, and I'll secure it with some string to keep it in place. Hopefully that will keep our clementine tree safe and sound until spring.
Cocoon.
Now let's talk about weeds. You might have noticed that I don't have many weeds in my garden, and that's because I use a no-dig approach to soil building. Plenty of mulch smothers most of the weeds before they even have a chance to sprout. However, I do get the occasional dandelion popping up here and there. These are pretty easy to deal with though. I'll just use a trowel to either dig them out or snap the root underground. It's important to stay vigilant, even in winter, because those pesky weeds can be very persistent. Oh, and I should mention that I do have a bit of an ongoing battle with bindweed every year. It seems like most of it is coming from my neighbours' gardens. We'll tackle that beast another time. Now, let's give our soil some TLC. Healthy soil is the foundation of a thriving garden. When I first started this garden, it was a real challenge. It was heavy clay soil with a lot of building rubble mixed in, a real nightmare to work with. But after years of no-dig and adding plenty of well-rotted chicken manure and garden waste compost, it has really started to repair itself. See how lovely and crumbly it is now, full of worms and life. We need to keep this up though. I've already got broad beans growing in this bed as a cover crop. They'll fix nitrogen from the air and add even more organic matter to the soil. And remember, we don't dig here, we mulch. This lovely thick layer of garden waste and chicken manure compost will feed the soil, suppress weeds, and help to retain moisture. It's the key to healthy, happy plants. And hopefully, it will also weaken any bindweed roots lurking beneath the surface, making my job a bit easier in the summer. And finally, let's get excited about spring. This is the perfect time to start planning your dream garden. I'm feeling inspired to grow some more basic produce this year. I'm thinking maybe 1 or 2 types of tomatoes for making sauces, plenty of onions, and lots of lovely root vegetables like potatoes and carrots. I'll also be focusing on vertical growing this year, with beans and peas climbing up supports to save space. I love browsing through seed catalogues and getting inspiration for new varieties to try. I'm going to sketch out my garden plan, making sure to rotate my crops to prevent diseases and keep the soil healthy. And I'll make a note of when to sow each type of seed, so I don't miss anything. Speaking of sowing, let's not forget about succession planting. It's a fantastic way to keep your harvest coming all season long. For example, instead of sowing all my carrots at once, I'll sow a small batch every few weeks. That way, I'll have a continuous supply of fresh carrots throughout the summer and autumn. The same goes for lettuce and other quick-growing crops like radishes. I can even use succession planting to extend the season for things like peas and beans. By sowing an early variety and a late variety, I can enjoy fresh pods for months on end. But here's another idea. I can follow up my early crops with something that will last well into next winter. For instance, after harvesting my early potatoes, I could sow some kale or winter cabbage in the same space. That way, I'm making the most of every inch of my garden and ensuring a steady supply of fresh produce throughout the year. So, we've covered pruning, weeding, protecting plants, improving your soil, and preparing for the spring coming ahead. Remember, a bit of effort in winter goes a long way. Now, it's your turn. Get out in the garden and give it some winter love. And don't forget to let me know how you're getting on. And don't forget to share your progress in the comments below. So, happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next one.